Well, you can see everything I'm doing, can't you? All right. Okay, that's all loading. You're good. And you may, if you would like, take your mask off there, sir, so that.
After 1 o'clock on August 23rd, I'd like to officially open this meeting. And the roll call. You've got everybody's name written down. Thank you. Names of our guests.
And if I may, Chair, just to be safe, if everybody could talk in a good projecting voice. Yes, I just want to make sure everybody can hear us clearly.
Motion to approve the minutes as they stand.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that motion is approved. The next section, of course, is the public comments. Because of the nature of the beast, we have otherwise guess we broadcast. If anybody has questions for us, they could submit emails. Kathy, do you know of any that have come in?
Okay.
I have not received any emails or requests to be in public forum.
Anybody from the gallery? Lee, step up.
Lee Steinbrecher at Janelle, and wanted to come before you this afternoon to dispel some rumors and let you know how the Vote No campaign to save their public utilities is going. As you know, that is the name of our organization, is to save Princeton public utilities. First, the rumors. In a recent post on Facebook, it was posted that thousands of dollars was being contributed to political campaigns of some of the local politicians from the Vote No campaign. This is totally false. Not $1 has been given to any political campaign. All of the dollars contributed are being used for advertising and signs. The Vote No campaign exists to give facts to the best of our knowledge about the utility, staff, and you, the commissioners. Unfortunately, a lot of time is being spent squelching lies and deception. Number two, the rumor this morning was that our video post yesterday, I don't know if you've seen it, regarding salaries of local public officials and local construction workers was coordinated with public utilities because part of today's discussion in your meeting appears to be about salaries. Let me make this very clear. At no time have I or will I coordinate to interfere with the operation of the public utility or its staff. Actually, I did not realize that you were talking about salaries at today's public utilities meeting. So I can only guess who posted that comment on Facebook, but you know, it's out there. But there was no coordination between me and your admitter. I knew nothing about what your subject was. And if you haven't seen it, some interesting information comparing salaries of school districts, salaries of other general managers of public utilities, and also, just to put in perspective, the salary of union construction workers in our area. I'd be surprised that they make more than Mr. Butcher does. That aside. Second, the campaign. The outpouring of support for the campaign to save the Public Utilities Commission is amazing. Someone at the printing company told me that I was nuts when I ordered the first 50 signs. Since then, I have reordered 3 times. I get calls every day from people I don't even know, asking how they can come. Commissioners, you need to know that there are a lot of people out there in this community supporting you. They don't believe the lies and the deception. Stay tuned for the next video. It will dispel the rumors about cheaper electricity in the communities around us. I was actually sent bills from a Connexus customer and an Central Electric customer. I didn't advertise for them. All of a sudden, they sent them to me by email, and people will be surprised. The difference. Princeton Public Utilities has the lowest electrical rates of all three at this point. As I do with all our videos, I end my statements with, if I was in Chicago, I'd say vote early and vote often. But today, remember to vote no to save the public.
Thank you, Nick. Anybody else?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. I'm just gonna grab a chair here and sit. Commissioners, General Manager Tim Henniger.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
I need some information, and this is related to an FAQ on your website regarding ballot question. And there's a number of responses and information that you have that describe the ballot question and so forth. And one of the questions is, I don't live in town, but I am a Princeton Public Utilities customer. Do I get to vote on this question? And your response there is no. The question will only be on the ballot for those that live within city limits. What I'm trying to get pinned down, and I did send this map to Butcher, which is a map of city limits.
And if I may, gentlemen.
Your service territory. What I'm trying to get figured out or pinned down is how many people or voters, to be difficult, how many people will not get to vote on their customers? I mean, if you look at the map, you can see the city limits there, and Mr. Regarding that map is not correct. That map is a GIS from Minnesota Department. It's a state GIS function, so it will pull down borders and everything. But my question is this: I need to try to pin a number down, and it may be difficult to do, of how many Princeton Public Utilities customers will not get to vote, because this question is only on the city ballot. So I don't know how you want to respond to this. I intend to ask the same question tomorrow night at the city council meeting in open forum. But I wanted to start here because I'm asking a response to something that you put out on the website. So if we want to go ahead.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to provide some information. So yeah, Tim had asked, started asking me this question, and I think it's fascinating. I love trying to figure out things like this. It's a great question. I went through and collected some data that I wanted to share to start to give us an estimate to answer Tim's question. And what I'd like to share with the commission is the following. In looking at the electric service territory, which is what we're looking at here, we have a total number of residential accounts of 2,300, give or take. That fluctuates from month to month as people move in and out, but we have a total of 2,300. When we did a review of the billing system, and the way that we determined if they were in city limits or not was whether or not they were being charged the franchise fee, because that's kind of the metric that we have used. Of those 2,300 residential accounts, 248 or 10.8% were not being charged a franchise fee and therefore would not be within city limits. And then, we got to take that a step further, because what Tim is asking isn't how many accounts we have. It's not even how many people is it, it's how many voters is really, I think, yeah, well, that gets even, yes, that gets even more complicated. But what I did, again, just to try to put some bounds around this, was I did go into the census data. And looking at the Princeton community, according to the census analysis that I found, the average household size in Princeton is 2.4 people. Now, that doesn't mean, everybody's of age to vote. It doesn't mean that everybody is eligible to vote. So that's obviously a high number. If we use that one, we would have to discount that a little bit. The other item that I found in the sense, 28.9% of the Princeton population is under the age of 20. Again, not perfect, but I got to use the census data that I have. So if I did that, and I took the 2.4 people per household, but then discounted that by 71.1%, assuming roughly 29% of the population is underage, you get an average of 1.7 people over the age of 20 in each household. And then if I assume one account per household, which is a pretty reasonable assumption, it's not perfect, but it's about the close that I can get. Assuming you have 248 residential accounts and you multiply that by 1.7 people per household, I get a number of 422. Now, don't read too much into the resolution of that data, because really what we're talking about is probably something between 400 and 500 people. I don't have accurate enough data to narrow it in much better than that, but I'm hoping that kind of helps put things in context.
I did call the Black County Auditor this morning and talked to him, and did not know what service territory is. And if some of the customers would be, for example, Princeton Township or other outlying townships, but he stated the council was the one that wanted the question on the ballot. So if it was on the ballot, it's related to the actual city, and basically that was the description. So I am going to have to try to pin a number down. This is not an exact science. So
yeah,
again, but the question has to be asked, because if you look at the map, it's plain. As the lines on the map, there will be customers that will not get voted on this, correct?
yes.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. Mr. Chair?
Could I just ask a follow-up question?
Could you come up to the podium, please?
We're on open time. Pardon? We're on public forum time. Jump right in. All right. Bob Barbian, City Administrator. Just a couple of follow-up questions. Keith and the newspaper as well. Have either of you checked with the Secretary of State to see? It's my understanding that who gets the vote is determination by the Secretary of State, and great to have the population information, but it's an issue a bit larger than.
It's an issue of where the question, who's going to get a ballot with this question on.
Sure. Well, that's the Secretary of State.
Right.
Have either of you checked with the Secretary of State? It's my understanding that the state statutes and the Secretary of State dictate who gets to vote.
Well, then the auditor ought to be able to tell them if he's checked the Secretary of State.
I don't know that you have.
Well, I can ask him.
Sure. And you have not.
I have that.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Is it possible if those ratepayers do not get a chance to vote, and the city does take this back, could fall under that taxation without representation?
It's a Secretary of State issue, and that's where the determination. It's a state statute and Secretary of State issue. It's not something that you could make all types of comments and claims, but I think in the end there's rules that we all have to abide by, and it's already been determined what the rule is. Now, as to whether it's been interpreted correctly, it's an easy question to ask.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Barbian. If you could, just for the camera's sake, if you could go, right? All right. Well, I want to make sure you're on the camera. Hold on a second. Okay. So I'm confused. Are you saying that those people are going to be able to vote on the topic
What
or
I'm
not?
saying is that the determination as to whether they can or cannot vote, and currently it's not. Currently, they are not. They do not have the. It's not a ballot question outside the city limits. What I'm saying is who gets to vote is something that is determined by state statute and the Secretary of State. And if you really want to know the correct answer, I think we ought to look to the source that makes the determination.
But
And if nobody's checked there that it's something that either you, or the city attorney or the county how to double check.
But I guess.
And I will do that if nobody else wishes. So that's all I have.
Well, no, but I'm very unclear, sir. No, but please, I would like to clarify your statement. Would you please come up so I can? Well, okay, well then, Mr. Chair, if I may, I guess I don't understand what Mr. Barbian is arguing about. I think our statement on the website, which stated that there are people outside of city limits who cannot vote on this ballot question, is accurate. Are you disagreeing with that? I mean, that's my question. Okay.
Clarification. I think what he's saying is the current structure is people in the city. If you want to challenge it, you have to challenge the Secretary of State. And I have not done that. And I don't know anybody that has, because it was a city proposal. The vote stays in the city for the town.
I just want to make sure we can hear you, sir.
Because it was the city's decision. City issue for people that are residents get a chance to vote. Now, should that be challenged because of taxation without representation issued to the Secretary of State? That's a couple clicks above my paper. I don't know that, but it's probably worth asking the question, and we can follow up with that after this meeting. But for the time being, I think Mr. Barbian's comments is this is the way it is for the moment. There you are. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
If you wouldn't mind taking it off, just so, I just want to make sure the speakers can.
City resident, I am with the city council, but I'm here as a citizen, not as a council rep. I don't want to be totally redundant. I'm going to take leave first. I am a candidate for public office. I'm running for county commissioner in District 1, City of Princeton. I'm a very strong advocate of the vote no committee. Be my sign for a new vote. As of yet, you have to give me the check. I'm on my own. The couple questions I hear. I travel around town and I talk to a lot of people. One is to vote the people outside of the city limits. Will I be able to vote? And my answer to them is, to the best of my knowledge, no. I guess the other thing is just people are just beside themselves. What is going on here? They just don't know. And thank God for Lee Steinbrenner. Yeah, as you said that night at the open forum, Lee, the people of this city are going to know the truth. And whatever it takes, they're going to know the truth.
Anything else?
Bruce Barbian. If there's any question with the state statute or the auditor or anybody that this should or should not be, for people to be able to vote as a customer and outside the city limits, that has been misrepresented by the city, and to the rush to put on this ballot, then shame on them. Now, if it was done intentionally or not intentionally, that could cause to throw this whole question off because it wasn't handled properly. You know, I would very, very directly ask you to check into that to see if there's any fault, or someone check into it with the misrepresentation of the city adding this in an improper, rushed way, as they did prior to the closing, and would not let public people speak at that meeting. They would not let anyone in speak, and the public should always be heard. So if you're accusing anybody here, you need to look in the mirror, and the city themselves should make sure that they are not doing the knee-jerk reaction, which they have done. All right? This whole thing has been absolutely insanely incorrect. And it's done in a manner of disgust. And I'm fully disgusted with how the city has operated this and won't let people speak. So please, everyone check in on it. And if there's any slightness of misunderstanding, then the call will be made to remove this.
Sure.
When you introduce the meeting, the August 23rd, we're sure got it caught.
Yeah.
In today's world, we gotta be ready.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then, Mr. Schwartz, you were a victim of that about that. You fully understand.
Yep.
Things are not right. Right, not right.
Anything else? I'd like to move on. Approval of the agenda as been written. I have a couple of things I'd like to add. Anybody else have anything?
I do, sir.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You go first.
I would like to request, and in order to keep the flow of the meeting going correctly, the addition of an 8B, and so everything subsequent in section 8 under new business would be relettered, and the topic would be a tort liability waiver that I would like to discuss with the commission. So 8B, tort liability waiver, and everything subsequently gets relettered. Correct, sir. Yeah, so that would then become C and so forth.
Anything else from anybody else?
That is it from me.
Mr. Chair, maybe you could just do the meeting with the mask on.
It would help me.
Yes, I agree.
We have an 8B. I would like to probably get 8J now to discuss billing procedures. And I'll go into more detail when we get down there. Anything else? Okay. In that case, do we have any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
No, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda with those additions.
Okay. Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda item number 5, the accounts payable. Anybody have any questions on any of those numbers?
I do not have any questions. I would make a motion to accept unless for discussion.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the bills payable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, all those against, same sign. Hearing none, the motion passed. Number 6, reports and correspondence. I'll go back to you, Keith, on the simple board meetings.
Yes, per our discussion from last month, I have included, in addition to the key metrics worksheet, also the meeting minutes from the simple board meeting from August. And I will continue to do so as long as the commission desires. So I wasn't going to go through that unless there are any specific questions. Okay. So in the future, I guess, just as a matter of process, sir, we can just put that in there and just keep going on unless there is a question. So that is it for 8A. You want me to go on to 8B? Mr. Chair? That was 8A. Would you like me to go on to 8B? Okay. Or 6B, thank you. Yes. Let me just make sure I'm. In terms of an electric department update in the generation plant, we are continuing some rehab work on the radiators. That involves some cutting out some rusted sections and welding in some new sections to keep that equipment operating properly. We also had a staff person, Jim Bigger, who has visited wells. He helped them out. They had a voltage regulator problem and asked for Jim's assistance because of his expertise in that area. Jim has also received a request from Delano Municipal Utilities to help with their plant. It is something that we've been doing as part of our ongoing effort to provide mutual aid to our other municipal utility colleagues. So I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of it. I also think it speaks volumes to the expertise that we have in-house and how our colleagues respect that knowledge and how they often reach out to us to help them when needed. I'm very proud of the staff for having that kind of standing with their peers. So I just wanted to mention that we have been helping out a couple of our colleagues. On the distribution system, we're continuing with some underground conversions on West Branch Street and 3rd Avenue Court North. That's helping increase reliability for 15 homes in those areas by eliminating 20 power poles as we continue to move everything underground. That's the electric department. In the water department, we had total control in town this week. They're continuing to work on our SCADA system and they're upgrading it at Water Treatment Plant 2. We're working out some bugs on that, but to make sure that all operations are operating smoothly, but that project is moving forward very well. We did experience a water leak on 6th Avenue that resulted from 2 abandoned service lines. And I was going to bring them with me. We have those, so you can see the holes that happen when a water leak forms in a service line. Those service lines were removed and we capped them at the main to prevent that from happening again. The road has been filled back in. We're letting it pack down naturally from traffic usage and coordinating all of that work with Bob Gerald, Director of Public Works. And after a few weeks, we'll go back in and finish topping off that road to make sure that it's all back to normal. We are planning to flush hydrants next week, which would be the week of September 28th. I do have actually the post went up today on Facebook just to make sure that folks are aware of that activity in town. So that's my update on the different departments. I have not put it on our website yet, but I can, yes. Yes, sir. I don't think we put it. Yeah, I don't think we did put it in the bill last month. But yes, yeah, it's something that we can catch next time. Yeah, we do it. Just so everybody's aware, we do that every spring and every fall. So it is a twice-a-year activity, and we try to communicate that as much as we can. But yes, I will do that. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I do. I just want to mention something that Dan Erickson and the other commissioners are familiar with, but at the Planning Commission, we talked about this and let Keith know at the beginning of this study. We're doing a sewer analysis study right now. And what we're looking to do on that is not only look to see what additional areas could be served when somebody requests services, but we're also looked at to see what our current infrastructure is. And what we're doing is we're looking at the metrics to see what type of materials are the sewer pipes, what size they are, and what their ages are, so that we can get a better understanding of our existing system to determine what needs to be, say, targeted first for potential maintenance items. One of the things we also look at in that matrix is the capacity, how much of it is, what kind of rate of flow is in those pipes. So that's something we're almost complete with, that we'll work to complete, probably be done in the next month or so. Something that you might want to consider doing for the water system. In the end, what we're going to look at when we have the sewer analysis done is we're going to start looking at our roads. what sewer pipes are in the worst condition, and then how does that line up with some of the condition of the roads? Now, this might be something that's gonna unfold over, quite frankly, decades. It was built over decades. It's gonna take decades to set something in place. Something that I think needs to be worked out together. Certainly, we know what's, and I think it's 20, I can't remember, it's 2022, which is 7th, which would be with the county. But that's probably not gonna change. So that's all I have unless there's questions.
General Manager's report.
Yeah, I want to give an update on a few different categories. With AMI, as everyone knows, AMI is a major undertaking that we started about a year or two ago. We are currently at 41.7% of all electric meters have been converted to an AMI system, and 17% of water meters have been converted. As I mentioned before, water meters are, it is a slower process for us because we actually have to get into the homes to do those. The electric meters are typically on the outside of the buildings. So that's why it's a different rate of conversion, but we're continuing to move forward on that. In the water meter section, a couple of interesting points I wanted to make note of. We only have 2 meters left in what we call our school book. It's just when we look at our different routes around town, we have different names that we use internally. The school book, which includes the school, the hospital, and the Sterling Point, has all been converted except for 2 meters. So that is a particular area that we spent a lot of time in billing because the school appreciates us kind of combining everything into one bill for them to make some things easier. So that's going to help us with that. And we also completed the Elam home yesterday for an AMI conversion. We also had a situation come up that I thought was kind of interesting. With one of the meters that had been, one of the water meters that had been converted to an AMI system, we had noticed some large consistent water consumption in a vacant building. And it came up in our dashboard that we have for the system. Our water superintendent, Scott Daniels, contacted the building owner, who happens to be out of town, isn't in Princeton. They asked us to investigate, so they give us the ability to access the building. Went in, found a broken toilet where the flapper had broken, and water was just running. We found it in, just after a few days, rather than under the old system, which we wouldn't find until the next meter reading, which is typically around, the 15th of the month. So obviously by catching it now, those are multiple days of water just running that we have been able to prevent from happening. That saved the customer, it's thousands of gallons that we're talking about. So it would have been significant once the bill came due. But we caught it early and was able to keep the customer's bills low on that. So that's an example of what the AMI system can do. The big ones are easy to find, and I think as we get more and more experience with it and we fine tune our data analytics, we'll be able to get better and better at this. But I think it's a good appetizer for what's ahead. So that's on the AMI front. I just wanted to report that. On the electric vehicle charger project, the DC fast charger at Coburn's is in process. The next stage is we will be pouring the footings and the foundation for that charger. So that's continuing to move forward very well. On the finances side, a couple of things that the commission has asked me to report on. For days of cash on hand at the end of August, electric was at 105 and water was at 505. Our kilowatt hour consumption is down 3.7% if I look at the period from February 1st through the end of August. So these are all the COVID impacts that we've been talking about all year. If I look at the kilowatt hour consumption in August, we were down 0.5%. So things seem to be, really coming back in line with what our, I think it's a 3-year average that we're looking at. That's all promising, but obviously this year has been lower than anticipated due to COVID and the results of that. We are starting our budgeting process, and I have an internal meeting tomorrow to start planning for 2021, and we'll start sharing that information to the commission as we put options together. for everyone. That's all that I have for the general manager's report. Yes, a couple of things I wanted to just share. The video on our website on the homepage, and actually I can probably share that just so folks can see it. Well, folks here, I guess. You can see that. I'm going to share the screen though, so that people on YouTube can see it as well once this gets loaded in. All right, so let's just do this. So for our website, you'll notice the video in the background, and there's a bit of a lag here, so it's not changing just yet, but it should catch up here shortly. The video that we had was from the springtime before, didn't really kind of match the summer season that we're in. So we did have our contractor update that video with just some summer footage. We also have them planned to come up around, let's say mid to late October to get some good fall foliage so that we keep this, this image seasonal. So then the idea is once we get through a full year, we'll be able to rotate that through and just keep the website current. So it's got a spring, a summer, a fall, and a winter video format on that. So that's been updated. We did start, again, because of COVID, we have not been able to do our real tours. And so as we had discussed in a previous meeting, we filmed on Friday 5 virtual tours. Which includes the power plant. It included the North substation, water treatment plant number 2, and the North water tower. And then also, we also did one in our facilities to show the fleet and our inventory and equipment and areas like that. Those videos are being worked on. I'd hope to have something to share with you today, but they're still compiling and editing a piece to put together. But when we have that, we'll start releasing that as well so people understand what is in this community and what Princeton Public Utilities has and the resources in the facilities, since we can't really bring people in right now as it is. So that is continuing to move forward as well. The other thing I would like to mention on communications, and I'm going to actually just have to walk down a little bit. I think we've got enough for everybody. We do have our connector newsletter. So these will go out in our bill at the end of this month. This is our newsletter, which will go out at the end of this month. So there will be information on Public Power Week and the event we will be holding on October 10th, which I will go through later. And then if you open up on the inside, a couple of just information points, some things that we've put on Facebook as well, but for those that might not be on Facebook, we have it here. So just, did you know about the 4% rate reduction that occurred in January 1st of 2019 and that the commission kept those savings going through 2020? Talking about how public power is hometown power. APPA is always very helpful in putting language together to help promote public power utilities. And then the information that we have posted on our website to try to help people understand the ballot question, what it is, what a no vote means, what a yes vote means, some information on statutes, information on who the commissioners are. And then on the back, 2 sections as you flip over, we will be entering into the cold weather rule. So what does that mean for customers, with some information on that, as well as the value of water and helping people conserve on their water bill. So just a few different articles that we like to put out. These have not been printed yet. So if there's anything that you see in it that you think should be tweaked, we actually still have a little bit of time. But otherwise, this was what we were planning on sending out in the next bill section, or next billing, I should say. Any questions, comments, thoughts on the connector? Yes, they do. The connector? The information already is on the ballot information. The connector itself, we had those up there, and so we can do that again. Given that this isn't finalized yet, this is not up yet. Yes, in your packets, I did write together a memorandum for you. It's 20-05 to just give you the feedback. And then in your packets, I also did include a copy of the bill, just so everybody can remember what the layout looks like. The summary, I guess the feedback I thought was very positive. We had a total of 69 responses, and the way that we had phrased the question is, just let us know your thoughts on the redesign. And we had just a simple graphic, thumbs up, thumbs down. Kept it, very straightforward like that. Of the 69 responses we got back, 91% were thumbs up. So I thought that was a very good response rate there. 4% did not respond, but they did have comments. And so those are listed below. And then the other 4% had a thumbs down. I did include all of the comments that we received. So not everybody who did a thumbs up or thumbs down may have submitted a comment. But those that did have comments, I put everything into this memorandum for you. So you can kind of see the feedback that we received. Some customers did write in with questions, a couple, there was one, I have a street light out, can you take care of that? Some questions about their electric bill. We have followed up with every one of those customers to make sure that we've addressed their question. The only one that I saw that we could, that really kind of gave us some feedback to think about is under the first one, under the thumbs down comment, is that the red print was too hard to see. So there might be something that we want to think about in terms of what color we use for certain sections of that. Other than that, I felt like the comments were overwhelmingly positive.
But it looks like you move to both typeface, you might want to consider going to a larger type for those total lines, but I don't know if that you have to look at what's flexible on that. But yeah, I have two kids that are colorblind. They probably have an issue with that as well.
Any comments, questions on?
I find it interesting. I like this little graph that shows me where I am compared to the average and that sort of thing. It's very interesting to me that I can spend so much more on my electricity than the average, and I'm rarely home. But the numbers are irritating, but they're there. But this customer says he's afraid he's being singled out for using more electricity. We need to find a way to assure him that we're not singling him out.
Yes.
It just pops up.
Yes. It's just meant to be information for customers to use if they so wish.
Yeah, and maybe we need to make sure that people share that information.
Yes. Yes.
The results, there were people that have commented to me, and I've even felt this way too. The chart seems to be a point of concern because I think everyone that shared with me anyway seems to be you spent more than the average.
Okay.
I don't know what yours says, but
Yeah, I'm on the same boat.
okay.
Yeah.
But if it's just you or you're not there, that's a bitter taste right off the bat because you're spending more and they're just being them. I see that as really a negative, and people said, just get rid of that and use something else that's more informational.
Okay, now, if I may give some background on this graph and why it's there. The reason why we are doing this is we are required under state statute to do a certain amount of energy efficiency work to help people reduce their electric bills. Historically, we have always done that through rebates for equipment. We think LED light bulbs, high efficiency air conditioners. But there's also a behavior component to energy consumption. Kind of to that point where everybody thinks they're all average, and I can tell you after looking at bills in multiple jurisdictions, everybody's unique. Everybody does something different. That graph is there to help us meet our statutory obligations when it comes to energy efficiency efforts. And the reason it works is because people see that, and you're right, they're like, oh, I'm higher. So then they start thinking about how they use energy. And we actually have a control group in town that don't get this. So that we can say, because of this graph, the customers that get it on average have a slightly lower consumption than if they hadn't seen that graph to begin with. And there's been multiple studies around the country showing that same thing. O-Power, which you may or may not be familiar with, had made a business out of doing exactly this kind of work. So this is all put together by SIPA for us. They pay for the contractor to do this analysis. We have it included in the bill. And then the savings that we have justified through an economic, not an economic, but through a statistical analysis showing that these graphs have actually impacted residential consumption and made it lower than what it would have been, it allows us to meet our energy efficiency requirements as mandated by the state. So there is a reason why we're doing this from a regulatory standpoint as well. I just want to make sure everybody had that background. At this time of year, we always look at the past due accounts, delinquent bills, and which customers we would send to a property tax assessment. We've had this year's been unique. Part of normally what happens is we go after. We try our best to collect from the customer. If that doesn't work, we submit it to the Minnesota Recapture Program, which tries to collect the money back through their income tax filings. However, this year, the federal government postponed the filing tax deadline from April 15th to July 15th. Kind of messed up a lot of the timing. And so a lot of the stuff just has been delayed due to COVID. So this one account, we just haven't been able to get anywhere with. The other ones, we're still going to wait to see what comes through on the Minnesota Recapture Program, but we're asking for this one account to be certified as past due, which then means that we can move forward on a property tax assessment. And Kathy, please speak up if I say any of this incorrect, because Kathy is the one that really handles that analysis, but I hope I summarized that in a fair way, at least. So I think we just need approval for that to be assessed at that point, just that one account. Yes. They are, yes. Kathy, I'm sorry, if you could. So yeah, so we always go after, we always try to work with whoever is the account holder.
ask a question, Chairman?
Please.
I didn't hear that part. Was this for sewer, water, and electric?
Yes, it is all three.
And I believe that we're able to put an assessment in place for sewer and water. I don't know about that,
It is in the owner's name, so it would be.
but I'm not certain that. I have to verify that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yes, I mean, we can do that. The only time we run into a question is on rental properties where it's in a renter's name, but this is
I'm
in,
not sure that I know we can for sewer and water, but I don't know.
So what happens if we decide to write this off and get it behind us because currently the owner of the property is paying the bills?
Currently, whoever is renting from him, has their name. One
So it's
particular
changed.
person, they did not require the rental.
The practice change,
Yeah.
right? So then the owner's name still today, but the renter is responsible, so that has changed.
Okay, so the chances of getting this money back are one rock, I assume, at this, other than.
well, we don't even know who that renter was because it was never put in their name. So
If we decide to write it off, we can write off the electric and the water. But can we make a decision to write off the sewer?
no, we cannot. That's a city decision.
We pass that on to the city and they can do whatever they feel is.
Correct.
And just for further information, it's been the city's policy that amounts due for sewer that have not been paid are assessed, whether it's rental or not. City's policy has been that all sewer payments will be paid, and if not, they're assessed against the property, whether it's a rental or not. Just to repeat.
So at this point, we do what we let the city know what we've done and move on.
Yes, sir.
All right. Delinquent bills, property tax assessments, safety management program.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, but I do need to have action on that. Does the commission wish us to forward this on for an assessment or not to forward this on first? I mean, the sewer we'll share it with the city and then the city will do what they want. Do we want to request an assessment for the electric and water on this customer? That's the decision before the commission. So
Is this deemed uncollectible at this point? Then? Is there any contact with the owner of the property?
We have contacted the owner, and the owner said he was, the renter, I believe, was a friend, possibly. He said he was going to get a hold of the guy. The guy told him he was making payments to us, which he was not, so it's
The friendship and all that.
So are you, or I guess I don't know if that answered my question. Is it deemed uncollectible by staff at this point?
I would have to say yes.
he's not responding to something more
Communications have ceased?
on his account,
With the owner.
yes. With the owner.
Well, I would say if communications have ceased, with that information, I would make a motion that we would move this forward to the city for
Assessment.
assessment.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, okay, try to move on. The safety program for him.
If I may, sir, we had added agenda item 8B for tort liability. Um,
I'll just, it's just okay if you don't.
I apologize for the late submittal on this. What ended up happening, again, 2020 is a crazy year with COVID and everything else. When we did our insurance renewals at the beginning of the year on property liability insurance, one of the things that was supposed to have been included is this tort liability waiver form. We have all of our insurance through the League of Minnesota Cities, and this was one of the documents that should have been included. It was not included. Kathy is the one that found it, so kudos to her for identifying that this was missing in our packets. I contacted our insurance agent. They had missed it. He had contacted League of Minnesota Cities. Usually they're the ones that catch it, and that hadn't been done. So this is something that should have been signed earlier this year. What it is for policyholders to determine whether they will or will not waive these statutory limits when it comes to tort liability. Under current state statute, there is a limit of $500,000 for any judgment that might ever come up. It is possible for a municipal utility to waive that statutory limit and say, yeah, sue us for as much as you want, kind of thing. If you want to, you have that right. This is a waiver form saying that do you or do you not waive that? We have always chose, or at least everything that I've looked at in the past, we have always chosen to not waive that limit, to keep it at $500,000. However, you do have the option to do that. Just so you know, if you do decide to waive it, it does a couple of things. One, our premium with the League of Minnesota Cities will go up probably about $2,800. And then in addition, since we now have greater exposure for a potential judgment, the insurance agent would probably recommend that we also buy an umbrella policy to cover that additional amount, which could be on the order of $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a year. Our insurance rep told me that everybody says do not waive the statutory limits. We're going to just do what the law says and keep it to that. But it is a requirement that it be signed off by the chair of the commission pending your approval. So my recommendation is we continue with our business as usual, that we choose to not waive the limits that are in statute, just continue to follow those regulations and move on. It does, and it needs approval, and then, sir, I would have to have you sign it. We do not have an umbrella coverage, is my understanding. This tort liability has to do with the amount, whether we're waiving that $500 cap that's listed in statute or not. I don't believe, Kathy, do you know? I mean, we have everything insured. All of our, we have, I can share with you our entire insurance packet. I mean, it's pretty thick, covering our fleets and covering the substations and the power plant, the office, and all of that. As far as an umbrella, as I understand the term to be used in the insurance industry, I don't believe we have an umbrella policy, but we have policies covering all the other stuff. But you probably know this better than I do, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
If you're saying that you have a $10,000 or $50,000 cost with an umbrella policy, that has to be in the millions and millions and millions of dollars for just one umbrella.
Yeah, and normally, like the number that the insurance rep was telling me was, if you skip if you said, okay, 500,000 is not enough, we want to allow people to sue for more than that, and you want to go to 2 million or 3 million or Yes. Yeah.
Insurance company didn't see it, you didn't see it, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Don't we have a general liability policy? Somebody walks down the sidewalk and slip and break their back.
Yes.
In front of our building. So there's a general
Yeah.
liability policy. that we have.
Yeah.
So that would be what we might call.
I'm not an insurance guy. Perhaps I'm using the terms incorrectly. I'm happy to share with you, our insurance summary or put you in contact with our insurance agent if you had any questions on that. But that's my understanding of how this waiver form was presented to me by the insurance company.
I carry an umbrella in private business, but I'd like to, I wouldn't mind posing that question to an insurance agent just to clarify how that applies to a public, not-for-profit entity. Because I think it could fall, in a private business, it would fall to anything above would fall to the owners potentially.
And that's why you have an umbrella.
With this situation, the public is the owner. So I don't know, but I would like to talk to an insurance agent because, yeah, I guess I've never heard of a business without an umbrella policy unless they were.
Yeah, and maybe I'm phrasing it wrong. I'm happy to.
That's something maybe we could put on. Somebody could double check and make sure that.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Number
Yes.
one, let's get a definition of what our insurance policy covers.
Yes, sir.
And keep that in mind. However, I think this particular piece that we're talking about here is that somebody comes to sue the public utility, like they would sue the city or the public entity.
Correct.
Then it's limited to $500,000. Do we want to waive that and say, no, go ahead and send someone to sue us for 12 million? We don't care. I think we should want to say no there. And so that's the motion that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'll make that motion that the member does not waive the monetary limits on municipal tort liability established by Minnesota statute section 466-.04. See that?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. So you have the motion that you need.
Thank you, sir.
And
It just brought up another point that we might want to double check.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
good discussion. We'll
You have a local contact for your insurance, correct?
Yes, it's Princeton Insurance Agent.
Sure. He's very good to work with.
Yeah.
Good company. They'll come to your meeting if you want.
Yeah, he is. Jim Burrows is who I am working with.
We haven't.
Jim's been doing this for a while. But I think we need to be clear. I think it's a semantics issue personally.
Yeah.
But we have to be clear so we can answer like we know what we're talking about.
So would you like me to have him come in at the next meeting? Okay. Okay.
Now we're going to the new C, which is Home B.
Yes, sir. The MMUA Safety Management Program contract. This is a contract that we have been doing with MMUA for a while to do safety training for our staff. It helps us cover our requirements when it comes to training such as OSHA regulations, bloodborne pathogens. Joe Schmidt, who is our MMUA rep, comes to our office once a month typically. He's a participant in our safety committee meetings that we have monthly to address any issues, if there happen to be any injuries or any different events that need to be addressed. And then every month he does various trainings. It also includes, I think if I'm remembering correctly, it includes Joe is also to just back up a second, you know, in addition to the OSHA bloodborne pathogens, he has also done training with, well, MMUA has done in terms of bucket and pull top rescuing, hot sticks, ergonomics within the office, just making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that our staff are have a safe work environment and are performing their duties in a safe way. What's before you is the contract. It is the same contract that we've had for a while. There was no increase. They have kept the annual payment the same at $11,700. So I'm asking, unless there are any questions, for approval by the commission to continue with working with MMUA for our safety training needs.
Recognized it?
I don't know. Okay.
Is this to meet the requirements for OSHA training?
That is my understanding, yes. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we continue the management program.
Just a question of point of discussion here yet. If someone can't make it to this meeting, what happens? Is there certification? Is there acknowledgement that this person gets credit for that, or how is that being monitored if they can't make it and now they're doing what the class was yesterday and there's a problem?
As I understand it, and Kathy can help me because she's also a member of our safety committee meeting and helps handle this. When Joe comes to town, we do the trainings. We have a sign-in sheet, you know, so we know who attended. We scheduled 2 sessions the day that Joe's here, so because we have the lobby and we need to keep that open. We want to make sure that every member of the office can come to it. So we do offer it twice during the day. If somebody is gone that day, which we always make sure people are scheduled to be in town, let's say somebody's sick. I don't know that they do have to make it up. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate Kathy helping me out there. Thank you, Kathy.
Aye. Carried. Okay. So, what are we?
Yes. So the first week in October is always a celebration of Public Power Week. It's an event that our federal trade organization, for lack of a better term, the American Public Power Association promotes and puts on. It's just a way to celebrate municipal utilities in the communities that they serve. And so different utilities do different things, and some don't do anything. But we always like to just mention it, let people know that Princeton Public Utilities is here for the community. We have planned a public event for Saturday, October 10th from 9 a.m. to noon. We're gonna have some tents out in front of the power plant. Given COVID, we're not gonna do plant tours, but we're gonna have prepackaged snacks, water bottles, a bunch of swag. We've got some LED light bulbs we can hand out. We've got hard hats for the kids, information packets on protecting your groundwater, electric safety. Just an event to just you know, welcome the community to our site. Give them an opportunity to you know, talk with staff. Nancy Kelly, our SIMPA ESR, will be in attendance, so she'll be able to help answer any questions on our energy efficiency rebate programs. Steve Downer from MMUA will be in attendance. Steve's a great guy. I don't know if any of you have ever talked with him, but he'll be here to represent MMUA and can also help answer any questions that folks might have on municipal utilities. It would be, I'd love to have all 3 of you there as well if you're available. But it's an event where we just want to welcome the community in, get to know us even more, and answer any questions that we can. 9 a.m. to noon on Saturday, October 10th. No, with the whole COVID, nervous. So I thought just to be safe, we're looking at, prepackaged granola bars, little bags of potato chips, stuff like that. Little mini water bottles, kind of so that people aren't sharing out of a bigger one. And then just, let people kind of wander around. They can at least see the outside of the facilities. And we were even thinking of lining up the trucks out front, putting out the bucket trucks and the digger truck, and so that people could see that equipment too. And if anyone has any other ideas, I'd love to hear them. Just I yeah. Yeah, so Bob, I guess I would work with you if we wanted to close off the
Yeah,
street.
you would put a permanent application in and close the road.
Okay. Okay.
It's getting really tight though. It's like cover template to see what things are in front of them. See what things are in front of them.
Okay.
It'd just be a very, even if it'd be an area that you could still be 6 feet away to actually have a place to go instead of wandering on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The only thing with that is, and just if you look at the practicality of people are going to stop here, where they're going to park, they're going to park on either road.
Yeah.
They're going to park on the side road, we're going to have to walk quite a way, so that might impact your people who would stop. You might want to just consider using the grass for your display.
Yeah. I was thinking that same thing. There are people that tend to use the parking here at the depot for something like that. Yeah.
It's always nice to have a place to gather, even though we have the social distance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have a food set up for something to handle there now.
Parking's pretty tight.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we'll look into it.
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Be break campaign.
Yes, sir. If I may just have a second. Oh, does it? If you could circle that in on your copy, just so that I catch that, so that we can make that correction. Thank you, Jack. Okay, I'm sorry, sir. Where are we? B-Break campaign. So these are bill inserts that will be going into our bills as well. It's a campaign that we have run for, oh my gosh, it's been going on for years. It's through SIMPA, and the difference in it is that through SIMPA, but also through Wisconsin Focus on Energy and a bunch of other utilities around the state, they have coordinated with local retailers to give an LED rebate at the register. So the way our programs typically operate is somebody goes out, buys an LED light bulb, and they can get a few bucks back for doing that. So then they submit a little coupon that we have along with their receipt, and then we give them a rebate. Not everybody fills those out, even though people may be buying those LEDs, but we can't count the savings unless we have that paperwork in place. One of the things that we've done to try to make sure that we're getting to everybody is this Be Bright campaign to allow people to get that rebate at the cash register. We do it for a limited time only. There is a lot of work behind the scenes that goes into it. Our local retailer this year is Marv's True Value. So when the program runs, they'll have a display there, and if a customer buys one of those LED light bulbs, they're getting a reduced price, which we are paying for. And so it's a rebate that we're offering at that time. So that program is happening again this year. Again, it's something that we've been doing every year, and I just wanted to make sure the commission was aware of it and see if you had any questions. Okay. Yes, sir. I have been notified that there is interest among certain staff in starting a collective bargaining unit here at Princeton Public Utilities. The first step was that through IBEW, which is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, they had filed with the state through the Bureau of Mediation Services with the intent to see if the Princeton Public Utilities staff is interested in unionizing. I have replied back to that. However, we are getting into some pretty complicated labor law, which is not my specialty, in terms of the proper way to handle and navigate that effort to make sure that we don't inadvertently do anything improper. And I reached out to our current attorney, who we do all of our work with. They did not want to take on that work. There was two concerns. One is it's not their specialty either. The second is they have done some work in the past regarding fringe benefit packages as it relates to management and union issues, and just was concerned that there potentially could be a conflict of interest in other work that they have done for other entities. They recommended the Stinson Law firm, in particular, Richard Pins, as being a very, very skilled and very great resource when it comes to this particular issue. So in order for us to have the proper representation to make sure that we do our due diligence as this issue moves forward, they did provide us with an engagement letter to be able to work with us on a collective bargaining effort, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I would like to, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can. I am looking for an approval of the engagement letter.
For years, there's never been any union representation in these workers. This happened because of the vote by the city.
I think, again, there's, I got to be very careful because there's very strict rules on this issue. What I can say is that I was notified this after it was put on after the question was put on the ballot. This happened after that, not before.
Gets ticklish, or,
Yeah.
who can say what about what? Fact is that it came up, they want to unionize, and the Minnesota labor laws being what they are.
If I may, Chair, I do want to try to be as clear as possible. The question is whether they do want to unionize. Right now, it's do we or do we not want to? And so what will happen is there is a vote. So I'm not comfortable in saying that they do want to unionize. I don't know that they don't. I mean, that's why they're going through the process, is so that they can decide for themselves of what they want to do. So I just don't want to overstate it one way or the other, if that makes sense.
Is their decision really, if we try to influence them, that can be problematic. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It has occurred. The indicated when the vote will be after November.
They are not that far yet. A vote has not been scheduled yet. The process is just starting.
I'm just wondering if there's been any other quote or
Because of the state filing, which was due on September 15th, this was the recommendation from our attorney, and so this is who I went with. I did not get other quotes. Unfortunately, I was under a time crunch at the time. So no, I only have the one. From what I know, this is a very specialized area, so there's not a whole lot of people that do it. Mr. Pence is, from what I've heard, is kind of the guy.
legal firm in Minneapolis. Get this sort of stuff for government agencies. And she heard of it and she said, yeah, they're good. So whatever kind of an endorsement that is, I don't know, but she's very, very knowledgeable about this. She's in it for 20 years. So.
And if I may also mention, there is no retainer. This is just strictly on a fee for service type basis. I will keep it to a minimum as much as I can to try to keep the budget in check. But the intent is to call on him when we have specific questions and manage that appropriately.
So we don't even know what a bonus is going to turn out. We are being forced to spend money on something that they may not have. And that's from the direction of whatever city council. So, when people complain about prices are going to go up here and there, this isn't our choice. This isn't something we want to do, but it's something we're being forced into do, which again is an unfair act. So again, I don't understand the whole movement, but it is what it is. And so when people complain that prices go up, the city is forcing us to spend money on.
Well, I take issue with that, Commissioner, because it's not the city forcing you. I think it's fair practice to treat the employees if they want to consider unionizing. It is their right. I think that employees have the ability to be able to stand up and consider unionization. I will stand with the employees.
And you can take
And
that
it has
stance.
nothing to do.
You can take that stance, but
Well,
don't interrupt me when I'm
accuse-
speaking. Okay?
accuse
Please do not
employees of-
interrupt me when I'm speaking. We are fair to you when we're in your council, so please be fair to us. It's not both, it's together we get this done. So we are being forced to spend money that we didn't have to spend before, is my point.
I got a question. In the history of the Princeton Public Utilities, has this question ever came up prior to this knee-jerk vote by the city council?
Not to my knowledge. Kathy, do you know?
I don't know people are really good, but it's not.
What I will say is prior to all of this, I have had conversations with staff, and they have been approached by union reps for years. I mean, it's just the nature of the industry, right. So it's not like, they haven't had the opportunity before. What I have consistently heard in regards to my predecessor, as well as former commissions, is that the employees trusted the commission and the general manager and viewed it all as working as a team and never felt like they needed it before. So I have had that feedback. What I will say is this. There is a tremendous amount of uncertainty that hasn't existed before with this ballot question. And people don't know what it means if this commission is abolished. And so when there is uncertainty, people start asking a lot of questions that they may not have been exploring in the past. And I think this is one of those. I think the uncertainty is causing these questions to be raised.
Mr. Chair. Sure. Yes,
Mr. Chair, can I extend for a question?
please.
City Administrator, pardon my ignorance, but is the city of Princeton, are you employees union or not? What bargaining units? There are 2 units? Okay, thank you.
I wish I could have heard all, but I'm sure it was very interesting.
There are two, excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'll rephrase. I asked the city administrator, does the city of Princeton have any union bargaining units? Your reply was,
They have two, there's two unions for the city, one representing general employees and I'll add to it, and one representing the police.
Two separate units.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you very much. Both of you. So what do you need from us, Keith, at this point, a letter to?
I think a motion and approval of the engagement letter with the Stinson Law Firm.
Well, my personal opinion is foolish to not start talking about labor law, labor relations, and so forth and so on. You know, some of my experience with larger companies in the past, 800 employees, all of them being queried by one union or another to join in. You don't have somebody that's familiar with the labor law in your area, can be very dangerous and very, very costly. So if one of you don't want to make a motion to sign this engagement letter, I will.
Well, I'll have to admit I have zero experience with this. So I would need representation. So I guess I would be in favor of making a motion to accept this engagement letter.
And there is no retainer?
There is no retainer. It is strictly on an hourly basis. Yes.
Still are looking at $500.
Correct. Rick has told me that he actually he actually discounted his rate for us because we are a municipal utility. He understands the situation that we're in, and he will try to have as much done by the lower range as possible. So he will do everything he can to try to keep those costs down for us as well, is what he has told me.
I
I do too, that's why I asked the question.
I mean, it's just unfortunate that the city's putting us in this position.
I agree.
This is where we're at. That's what we have to deal with at this point. So
It is hard to fathom that this company is $500. I don't like being put in that position, but I have to agree if this is who is recommended to us and through the information that you've received that if we need it, we need it, but it is unfortunate that we're being forced to spend money.
So I'm going to interpret that as a second.
That is a second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Carried. Motion carried begrudgingly. Share agreements.
Yes, sir. In your packets, this is another long-term program that we have been involved in with the Salvation Army through Heat Share. We share information for folks that are on more low-income side of the spectrum, that to let them know that there are resources available to help them in meeting their winter utility bills. And so this is the letter to continue our participation in that program. And then just again, as background so that we have full information, this is that same program where people can, through their utility bill, donate money into the Heat Share program. And then we have always matched that contribution to Heat Share as well to the Salvation Army. It really hasn't amounted to much over the years. I want to say maybe a couple of $100, you know. Yeah, I think it's in the $100 to $200 range a year in terms of what we've matched. But it is, you know, it's an effort for, it is a program for us to help those less fortunate on the system. And so I think it'd be a good idea to continue to work with the Salvation Army on that effort. And I'm asking for approval on this program for 2021. I think we need to have a motion and approval, yes.
It's a great program. I make a motion that teacher.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. 2020 commission calendar.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My turn.
I'm on a roll, okay?
I brought this up in a early on calendar, because with all this coming up and elections and whatnot, I look at, we moved our Thanksgiving meeting in November last year, so we had a longer period of time. So our October meeting is on the 28th of October. Our November would ordinarily be on the 25th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. And I think we backed it up a week and did it on the week prior last year. So people that were heading out of town for holidays and whatnot, and that didn't really pose any problem. So I'd like to suggest making the Thanksgiving change. And then on the December one, our meeting's on the 23rd. That's the last Wednesday, so you've got Christmas Eve and Christmas Day following that. I don't know that that's not quite as on top of the dates as Thanksgiving one, but I'd like to make at least the Thanksgiving request, because we have some people traveling to meet with us, and I need the time to do what my wife says. So I'd like to move the November date from the 25th to the 18th. And I think the December one's probably okay, but that's kind of a wrap up. Usually,
The December one was the 23rd. The 23rd.
the
Correct.
23rd is the date for the December one. So I think that's far enough in front of Christmas that shouldn't be a problem, but if it is, I'm willing to work it out too, but I definitely want the Thanksgiving one moved to 18.
I would like to see Thanksgiving, the 18th, but I'd also like to see.
Rick, I'm sorry, could you take the,
I'm sorry. I would go ahead and agree with the 18th for November. But I would want to be on the 23rd. I'd focus on 16th. Such a busy time here for.
It is. Any objections, Dan?
No, that would be perfect.
Okay. So
I will just need to clarify with Barry that the space is available. So let me do that. Yes, to have it here. But yeah, I will do that right away, and then. Since we're not changing October's, let's make a recommendation now. Let me confirm that the space is available, and then we can do a motion next time.
yeah, no. H or I or whatever it is at this point, general manager review and salary discussion. I'd like to hold that for just a second and bring up the one about billing change, and then we'll come back to that because there's going to be more discussion on that. It's billing change. As I understand it, we bill customers every month for electric, water, and sewer. If they pay all of those things, we distribute the money to the city. If they don't pay those things, we pay the city anyway. Which kind of just goes against my general business background. You pay what you've been paid. And I don't know how complicated it is to separate that. And it's probably going to make your life miserable. What I'm going to suggest is that we look into paying the city when we're paid for the sewer bills.
So paying the city what we collect.
Exactly. I mean, when I think about this, in my background in sales, when I was on commission, I'd sell a company $10,000 worth of guns and ammo. And when they paid the bill, I got a commission. When they didn't pay the bill, I was motivated to go visit them. So it was, that's kind of the way it works. And so in this case, I think it would be important that we keep the accounting correct and let the city know that this customer is not paying. And as soon as they do pay, we'll forward that cash on to you. I don't think this is not a shot at the city council or anything else. I just think it's good bookkeeping to know exactly what it is that we're doing. And so I'd like to look into that. So I'm not making a motion at this point, but I'd like to evaluate that because it's going to be in a change in how we do our bookkeeping internally. What it's going to cost us and what it's going to save us, and if it's worth pushing forward. So like I said, it's not a motion, but it's a suggestion that we look at that and evaluate what the deal is.
Yeah, to add to that, maybe Keith could clarify this, but I've always wondered why we are approving the bills list after they've been paid instead of before they've been paid. I guess might be kind of along that same lines of thinking that you're talking about. So, I don't know, maybe I know it was probably just something that was going on before your time.
Yes, it is the process I inherited.
Right. So I mean,
I was doing it because Kathy said so.
I mean, just because it's been done for 110 years or whatever.
$76.59 has already been paid by us back in 2017. So we've been out that, and the city has their money, but we don't have ours.
Well, just to be clear, I think there has been, and Kathy, speak up if I say something incredibly stupid, but I think there has been kind of a year-end process where they say, okay, this hasn't been paid, so you can get the money back.
Yes, I misstated that. I was incorrect in how I presented that. So Kathy, actually, can you maybe say that better? It's not that it doesn't get true up until it's deemed uncollectible, correct?
Typically, we deduct the sewer portion of it as we got the common check.
But that's from what we charge off, which might be from prior years. And so it's not stuff that we just didn't collect in this fiscal year that we're truing up. It's only once it gets to an uncollectible state. But we have that every year, which is why I was thinking it was an annual true up, but it's not an annual true up on the financial activity in that year.
To collections, the whole entire bill is collections, not just the ones who we send everything to collections.
Okay, from my point of view, which is just my point of view, is that this is sloppy. I don't think I could have gotten away with it at other places where I work. We should be paying what we've been paying, clean and documented, and it's all right there. This is one guy sitting here spouting off, but I'd like to look at this and see if this is reasonable or unreasonable or expensive. If it's going to cost a lot of money to do it that way, I'm not interested. but we should find a way to not be paying money that we're not getting yet. It's just a request from the chair to take a peek at how we're doing it.
Yes, sir.
All right, so I've got that off my chest. Now we can go back and talk about general managers, the newly salary. What? So to preface this discussion, this is something we, and I don't know if we were all involved, but Keith and I were involved at the early stages of this. That Keith came aboard in May, end of May, 1st of June, somewhere in there. I wasn't here of 2019. So at 6 months, we talked about Keith, but we didn't give him a raise. And then at the year point, we were right in the midst of the hard stuff of COVID coming on. And it was a particularly difficult time. What are we going to do? How are we? And I asked Keith, I said, do you think this is really a good time? Can we hold off until this thing settled down? Assuming that it was going to settle down almost immediately. Of course, it didn't. So at this point, I think it's incumbent on us as a commission to begin a serious review and salary discussion for Mr. Butcher's work going forward, and determine what we want to do as far as incremental increases in his salary to come back to the people, and whether or not we would pay it back to the start date and so forth. I have a call into the folks at Central. They haven't gotten back to me yet to get a better idea of what our Simber members are paying their GMs. Mr. Steinbrecher was good enough to post his, they told me a little idea of our neighbors, but that's just the beginning. I think we need to formalize that. And then we need to have, I don't know how the closed session would work in this case, but we have to have a closed session where we would get a chance to throw our 2 cents in and make a decision about what the salary is going to be going forward. So I haven't had this discussion with you yet, but that's where I am. And I think it's important that we say, okay, here's the date. We have October, November, December left in this year. We should have something on the table well before that. So I'd like to suggest that we have a work group that is closed sometime in October. Does that sound reasonable?
Not the 14th, it's my anniversary.
Oh,
Keith's birthday.
It is. Wow.
It's number 42.
okay, so we have a work group session. In the meantime, I'm going to gather up as much information as I can, and I will circulate that back to Keith. You can pass it around.
Usual time, usual time, 1 p.m.
Yeah, please.
Just a photos, can we have them in the office?
I will figure that out. Yeah, I don't know that we'd be able to have the spacing that we need. So I will find a spot for that.
This is strictly a study session.
Well,
My intention is, this is the way I have it in my head. I'm going to try to gather up some information from around the state about where people are, how they've given increases in history. Circulate that information to you guys, so you can see kind of what's going on, and we can make recommendations, and we'll run all this stuff back to Keith. Once we have all that information, in front of us. And we can meet on the 21st, and that'll be our discussion points. We can argue back and forth and decide what it is that we want to do on that meeting. But I'd like to get that information out so that at least we all have the same information in front of us. And then anything you guys decide, yeah, this is important to add in, please circulate that information as well. Then we can have a reasonably intelligent discussion on the 21st and make a decision. It's unfortunate that it's happened the way it has, but it has, and we made the best decisions we could at the time. In retrospect, I think it was a good thing that we didn't do it. You know, everybody was at their peak COVID, and we didn't know what we were going to do. That would be my suggestion.
Mr. Chairman, do you have other items that you would anticipate to be on that study session? I just want to know. Schedule.
I'm sorry, sir.
Do you have other items that you anticipate for that study session?
No, not at this moment. I'm open to suggestions. You think I should cover something else?
No, I just want to know from my own schedule. Keith, if there's other additions to the study session, would you please inform me ahead of time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can. I mean, if it's a closed session, it
No,
needs
I
to-
don't understand the closed
Yeah.
session. I'm talking about other items that when you have study sessions, I just like to be aware of them.
Absolutely.
And if there's other issues on it, I just like to be able to have advance notice so I can participate.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you.
The only thing we have at this point is specific.
Thank you.
I just have one comment. I would like to be, as transparent as possible because the mayor has spread some misinformation about Mr. Butcher's salary in the past, and so I just want to make sure that we're as transparent about this process as possible.
Absolutely agree.
And I want to make sure that there is not an opportunity for more lies and misinformation to be put out there. So
Very good. Sir. Yes.
Mr. Chair, for the record, will you please have somebody state General Manager Keith Butcher's current salary? Open data, I can make a data request and do it. Why don't we just do it right now? What is his annual salary?
Annual salary right now. I've been told that his salary, he was put on staff before I got here, so I had to check on this, but his annual salary is $112,000.
That is correct.
And again, thanks to Steinberg for doing a little research on his side, so we know that that falls right kind of in the middle of stuff in our neighborhood.
Mr. Butcher did accept the position at less than his requested starting salary when he applied for the job, just to as a point of reference. I believe it was less than the current PUC manager was making at the time. So
When I was going to make my research, Mr. Butcher's salary is less than the previous PUC general manager.
And the mayor had made statements that it was the highest salary in the county, which if you check, we cover Sherburne and Lax County. So, but it wasn't the highest because Connie had previously made more.
Yeah.
And it depends on which county that you're talking about.
Yeah. So we want to add to your point, we want to be as transparent and as open about this as we possibly can. And when we make a decision, that'll be made public. Yes, ma'am.
I was involved in the interview and hiring process of Mr. Butcher. And during the time, we did ask Connie what her current salary was, and she stated it at $110,000. So I'm not sure if after that point she was given a raise, or at what point her salary was higher than that. Can somebody tell me what you found out her current salary was, or?
The information I got was $112,480. So it's not a lot of difference. That's the information I got.
That was my, yeah, that's, That's what I had understood too, in that range.
She wasn't before, she was raised after the point of.
I wasn't a part of that conversation, so I can't speak to that.
Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that. If you can agree with that, we've got those dates, and I'll get my homework done, get it out to you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion for adjournment at this point. Oh, sir.
Mr. Chair, final question to the general manager. Point of information. Would you give me an industry definition of a microgrid?
A microgrid, so typically when you think of the grid, you think of the national grid. So you think of MISO, which is kind of the regional control system. Microgrids are typically in reference to, think of college campus, where you would have an assortment of buildings and facilities that are interconnected, but in some ways can be isolated from the larger grid. And the microgrid will typically have generation within it, whether it's a generator like ours, or whether it's a customer-owned natural gas engine that can supply their power. You'll see microgrids. A big employment of microgrids is in data centers because they require reliability to like 9 nines. And when I say 9 nines, I mean 99.9999999% for their business model. So a microgrid is typically a grid that is much smaller than the national grid, can be self-isolated, supply its own power, and be able to manage the load and the demand together and act like a mini grid. Is really what that meant. And it's usually handled on a per customer basis. So college campuses, hospitals, large data centers, large industrial facilities could set up microgrids. So that's my understanding of how that terminology is used.
No. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.